Hey guys, welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. Today I want to talk about books, specifically reference books that I like to use and have available in our homeschool. Now today's video is a part of the Homeschool Show and Tell series, and for those who aren't familiar with that, it is a monthly show and tell video series. It's hosted by Abby from Rooted in Rest and Jessica from the Waldock Way, and each month they have a topic related to homeschooling. And this month's topic is homeschool librarian. So thank you, Jessica and Abby, for giving me an excuse to talk about books. If you're familiar with my channel at all, you know I love books. I have books everywhere in our house and in our homeschool, and I'm constantly reading, and my kids do a lot of literature-based curriculum. We love books. So I thought, well, let's tailor it down for today and talk about reference books. And what do I mean by reference books? You know, when I was a kid, that meant like the encyclopedia. You know, if you were lucky enough to have the big whole encyclopedia in your home or at your school library where you could find out all kinds of things. But nowadays, there are so many really awesome reference books out there. And while some, can be a bit pricey, there are always so many good deals you can find. All you have to do is walk into your local Barnes & Noble, go over to the bargain book bin, and there are so many really cool different reference books, and they might be on sale for $5, $10, $15. And you might think, well, I don't think I need this for anything specific. But that is where I have just loved to go and start collecting different types of books on different topics. If I know we're going to be studying a certain time in history and I can find a book that's filled with all kinds of facts and photos and articles that we might be able to look at for further information, or something we can, go and explore more if there's a topic in one of our curriculums that the kids are just really excited to learn more about. And so I've gathered quite the collection of reference books. And in our homeschool, we don't necessarily use them every single day. In fact, a lot of times I simply have them out and available. And I might earmark some pages or throw a bookmark in there and say, hey, the pages I marked are related to stuff you're reading this week. And at their leisure, the kids can go and open them up and find out more about different things. Or if they're getting ready to write a paper or do a presentation for me, they can use those books for additional information. So I have some very big stacks of books down here to show you. And this is not even all of the different reference books that I have, or like big topical books that I have. I just grabbed as many as I could carry over to here. And I wanted to share some of the things that I have been gathering to maybe give you some ideas on things that you might want to peruse at the bookstore and consider grabbing. Now, I think the majority of these books would work well with most kids, no matter their age. There are books that have quite a few pictures and smaller captions that would be fine to use with your younger students. And then there are some that are a little more involved that might be more appropriate as your kids hit middle school and high school. All right, one quick thing I want to share because it is pertinent to a couple of the books I'm going to show you. A lot of reference books are written from a secular point of view, particularly those in the science categories. And that means that you might see mention of things like evolution or billions of years in those books. And if that's something you agree with, then no problem there. If it's something that you don't agree with or that you don't teach, you just want to be aware of whether or not it's in the books that you're buying. I always like to kind of flip through books at the bookstore just to get a feel for what is in them. I might not sit there and read them cover to cover, but at least it'll give me a good idea of what is included. For me personally, mention of things like that is not something that immediately disqualifies a book from being included in my homeschool library. It simply means that we're just going to not use that portion of the book. I also have teenagers, and we've gone through apologetics. They're pretty solid in their faith, and they understand what it is we believe and what the Bible teaches us. So they tend to know to just kind of skip over those parts. And if they have questions about something, or if they want to revisit something we discussed in apologetics, then we have those discussions at that time. So just want you to be aware that, especially in science reference books, that comes up quite a bit. All right, first up I have a doozy. This is a DK book. It is the Smithsonian History of the World in 1,000 Objects. This is a really cool book. It is just chocked full of pictures, chocked full. And I love it because if you have a student who's a visual learner, it's just got so much visual interest in the book. And the things that they have written about the different objects are quite short. So it really is great for kids of all ages. And if you want to get more in depth on different things, there are some larger articles and full pages of text in here as well. But it has just been a really neat reference book for My son, he used it when we were studying geography and cultures last year, and he's using it again for world history. And we will just keep this in our homeschool because it's just awesome. It covers all different time periods of history. Really fantastic. It was a bit of a cost, I believe, to get it initially, but for the amount of use we've gotten out of it and the number of years we're going to use it, it was a really good purchase. Now, while the last book could really be used for kids of all ages, the next one's definitely geared more towards upper middle school or high school students, and that is the history book, Big Ideas Simply Explained. This was recommended for our world history course that we're doing this year from Guest Hollow, and it's not a picture book at all. I mean, it has some graphics in it, and it has like some charts and things like that, but it is quite a bit of reading. What I like about this book, though, is it does exactly what the title says. It takes these bigger ideas in history and it breaks them down into like smaller bite-sized chunks, or gives you just kind of a simpler overview of it, so you can get a general understanding of what was going on in different periods of history. So it's been an interesting little reference book that we've been able to utilize a little bit of a time as my son is studying different time periods this year. Next, I have History of the World Map by Map. Not gonna lie, this book was an investment. It's not a cheap book, but it has been a great tool for our homeschool, not just in history courses, but in multiple different categories, including our own Bible studies. For example, I kind of marked here a page, The Rise of Christianity or The Spread of Christianity. When you are reading about where the apostles went and how Christianity spread, maps like this help you to really visualize just what we're talking about in terms of area, just how far away things were. When you're talking about different empires that were rising and falling, and they talk about these different places, especially places whose names have changed over time, a map showing you that and giving you an idea in reference to where things are nowadays can be incredibly helpful. And so we've really utilized this a lot. So if you are looking for something that you'll get use of for lots of different subjects over many years, this one was a good one. Just a few more related to like history and cultures. I have the Smithsonian History, The Past as You've Never Seen It Before. Very similar to the 1,000 Objects book, but it is one that is much smaller, so it's a little more affordable if you don't want to spend quite as much money, but you still want one that's got lots of great pictures and graphics. And again, those bite-sized pieces of information that your students can read and learn about. So that one's a great one. This one I picked up, and I want to say it was on sale for like $15 at Barnes & Noble. It was definitely a steal at the time. This is World War I, The Definitive Visual History. And I have another one on the shelf that's World War II. And if you have a student who really enjoys learning about the military, who likes studying history of the military and different wars, these are really great books because they have all kinds of information. I mean, there's pages in there about weaponry, where things were happening, who leaders were, timelines, all kinds of stuff. So it's a really great, I mean, obviously it's a thick book, so it's got so much information. This one does about World War I, and my other one I have about World War II, and I might even have one on the Civil War. I have quite a few of these books on our shelves. Now, if you're looking for books on World War I or World War II that are a little shorter or maybe slightly less expensive, DK also has these eyewitness books. So I have Eyewitness World War I and Eyewitness World War II. Along the same lines of all the other DK books, lots of pictures and images with plenty of information packed into each of these books. All right, let's shift over to Science and Nature. These two DK books are just gorgeous. I have Wonders of Nature and The Mysteries of the Universe. And I think both of these books came out a couple of years ago, and people were kind of gobbling them up because they're gorgeous. They are gorgeous. The covers are gorgeous. The books are gorgeous. The illustrations are just beautiful. And there's lots of interesting information packed into both of them. If you just like to have pretty books in your homeschool library, this is definitely one to have. It's so pretty. I love these books. I love just looking at the pictures. But the information is also really great as well. I also love me a big giant botany book. This is Botanicum. It is from the Welcome to the Museum series. There's, again, a whole bunch of books in this series on different topics. It's filled with beautiful illustrations and lots of great pictures in here. One of the reasons I enjoy having science books or really nature-themed books that have illustrations as opposed to just photos is for the purpose of nature journaling. When I was teaching my kids how to nature journal, we would go out and we would do our observations and we would take our notes, and they might do a quick sketch while we were outside. But oftentimes we would come back to our home and I would start pulling out these different science and botany books, and we would look up things that we had observed in nature or things like related to what we had seen in nature, and we would use the illustrations in these books as a starting point for the sketches in our journal. It was just a lot easier to draw a picture in our journal based off another illustration than it was to draw it based off of an actual photograph. I'm not sure why that was. Maybe it's because we could kind of follow along the idea of how the lines were in the illustrations. We could look at what kind of medium was used to create that picture and try to duplicate it with our own twist. But it made drawing in our nature journals so much easier when we had illustrations that we could be looking at. Another big old book on flowers is this one. This is the Smithsonian Flora Inside the Secret World of Plants. You can see from the sticker, I got it in the book annex at Barnes & Noble for like $20. Lots of very large pictures and illustrations in this one, and it covers all different types of topics related to botany. We were doing botany, was that last year? I think it was last year. The years are blending together. My daughter did botany, and this wasn't a book that was on the book list, but I picked it up for her to use anyways. And again, this was great for her when she was doing nature journaling or when she was sketching in her narration notebook on different botany topics. But just a beautiful book with lots of great information. And then I have one more flower book here. This is Seeing Flowers, Discover the Hidden Life of Flowers. I'm pretty sure I got this one at Barnes & Noble too, but I honestly can't remember. Beautiful pictures. And that's just something that's kind of a common theme with a lot of these reference books, is the fact that the images are just so vivid and beautiful and eye-catching, and it really draws your kids in no matter their age. They're just going to be attracted to these wonderful, vibrant photos and these wonderful illustrations, and then they're going to want to read more about the things in that book. Similar to that, I have a couple books on trees. This one is the Tree Book for Kids and Their Grown-Ups. This one is a nice short little reference book. This is excellent for kids of all ages. Also excellent if you are doing nature journaling with your kids, because it really does focus just on trees. There is information in here on tree identification, so you can look up a tree and you can see images up close of what the leaves look like, different things, what their seeds are, what their fruit look like. It would be really wonderful for teaching your kid tree identification. There's also information in here on things like cones. What are they? What do they do? How does a tree eat and drink? There are sections, where was it? Leaf buds, what the different parts of a leaf are called, how leaves change their color, which comes first, fruit or flowers, what goes on inside a cone, and even information about the bark. So there's images here of different trees and the type of bark that they have. So really great book, again, for nature journaling, for learning tree identification. Trees of Life covers trees from all around the world. So you'll get images and information on trees in South America, Africa, in different rainforests in Asia. So it's just a little wider variety than that last book, which really just covers North American trees. The Bee Book is a great book to keep on hand if you have a student who wants to learn all about bees, or maybe they're really interested in gardening, because it really does cover all things bees. From hives to hive lives, to the benefits of bees, to how we protect them, the things that are threatening them. What is a bee colony like? What are the different jobs that they have? How do they communicate? It's got lots of great images, graphics, pictures, information. Really fascinating book. And if you are a gardener, it gives you some great tips on how you can keep bees happy in your garden. All right, last of the really giant books. I have another DK Smithsonian book. This is Wildlife of the World. Beautiful book. Loved all of the pictures of animals from just all over the world. So if you have kids who just love animals, this is a wonderful one to have. Plus, it's a beautiful book, so it also makes a great coffee table book that people can flip through and learn about their favorite animals more. The last couple reference books I have are in the government economics category. My daughter is actually using them this year for a government econ course, but I feel like they're just great books to have on hand overall. The first is the Infographic Guide to American Government, the Constitution, the Three Branches, the Power of the People. It has all kinds of illustrations, graphics, charts, just things that help you understand different things about our government. Wonderful for visual learners or for students who just need a different way of learning this material. I also have the People's Guide to the United States Constitution. I don't know if this is would really qualify as a reference book, but I mean, it's a book referencing things about the Constitution, so I guess it's kind of a reference book. But it takes you through the whole Constitution, and then it provides explanations on each part. So no pictures or anything like that. Well, there's a few pictures, but this is not, a big graphic book. But it has a lot of great information and really easy to understand explanations on all of the different parts of the Constitution. And then the last one I have is How Money Works, the Facts Visually Explained. So she's using this as a part of her economics course. In the course, it's just listed as it says a reference book, and they kind of say, well, it's nice to have, if you have it, great. This book has been invaluable. This book has been, if you do the government and econ course from Guest Hollow, this is a great reference book to have because economics can be hard to understand. It's a topic that I think you either really get easily or you struggle with it. And this just helps put things into easy to understand formats. I mean, look at the quality of these graphics in here. I mean, they're really just wonderful ways to make complicated economics principles more understandable. So it's been a really helpful tool. So glad that we purchased that when we started that course. So that big old stack of books is actually only just a small portion of the reference books that we have in our homeschool library. I have just really enjoyed expanding our library and finding new resources over the years. I'm always on the lookout for great deals on books. I will try to link as many of them as I can down below in the description box for you if there are any of them that you'd like to check out for your own homeschool. I do encourage you to watch for sales. Check out Barnes & Noble's discounted book bins. Check out their book annex. Online, they even will have some of their annex books available for a really good price. A lot of these too I bought secondhand, so I either went to like half-price books or I found online discount book dealers. Amazon has lots of used copies of these books available, and I've always had great luck with getting books that look practically new when they arrive. So that doesn't have to break your bank to add some of these fabulous books to your homeschool library. If you have any favorite books or any favorite reference books you guys like to use, drop a comment and let me know down below so that way I can buy more books. And be sure to check out all of the other videos in this month's Show and Tell playlist. I know there are a lot of great videos on there already with people sharing some of the favorite books that they have in their homeschool. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Have a great weekend. See you in the next video. Bye.
And will I be washed away just like lines in the sand?